welcome back to Driving Success, the award winning Fleet Advantage podcast, a show where we bring you expert insights in the latest trends shaping fleet management and transportation. I'm your host, Tracy Derival, and today we are discussing a challenge that is putting a huge financial pressure on organizations with transportation fleets: the rising diesel costs and the growing cost of operating older equipment. With diesel prices now surpassing $5 per gallon, organizations are now feeling the impact, especially those who are running aging trucks. We recently released our latest Truck Lifecycle Data Index, or TLDI, which compares the all in operating costs of Class 8 trucks across multiple model years. The data shows that organizations operating older equipment could be leaving millions of dollars on the table annually by delaying replacement decisions. Joining me for today's episode is Joseph Rugare, who is our senior fleet and transaction analyst here at Fleet Advantage. He will be walking us through the latest TLDI findings and help us break down what the data means for fleets who are navigating today's volatile environment. Let's get into the episode. Hey, Joy, welcome to Driving Success.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
Yes, it's great to have you on for the first time. So, before we start the episode, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background within the transportation industry?
Absolutely, yeah. I've been at Fleet Advantage 4.5 years now. My role is senior fleet and transaction analyst. A lot of what we do is the heavy lifting analytics on the forefront for a lot of the fleets. We do fleet studies. We work with a lot of truck data, MPG, mileage data, maintenance data. And we really try to just portray a solution to our partners out there who are trying to lower their total cost of ownership and their fleet. So, but it's been a great journey so far in the 4.5 years.
Right. And that is the reason why you are the perfect guest for today's episode.
Thank you.
Yes. So now we're going to move on to our latest TLDI. When reviewing the data does show some major cost differences between running older trucks versus 2028 model year equipment. What stood out to you the most when you were reviewing the data?
What stood out to me the most was just the large number of savings that you get from one truck. I mean, I think the number was $12,845 a truck. If you have a 100 truck fleet, that's $1.2 million right there. And a lot of that, a lot of fleet owners don't really realize that at the start. They're really just focused on, trying to keep that truck for as long as possible, but they're not really taking into account the incurrence of a lot of operational costs, whether it be fuel, maintenance, and anything else that pops up. But really, I'd say the gap of just the savings from 2022 to 28 really was an eye-opening number, and I think it can do a lot of eye-opening in the fleet industry as well.
Right. And to piggyback off of the fuel prices, obviously diesel prices, it has increased dramatically within a short amount of time frame. Why do rising fuel prices put organizations who are operating older equipment put them at such a financial disadvantage?
Yeah, great question. A lot of the analytics that we put together with our fleet studies, we see a lot of fuel degradation in older trucks. So a new truck will roll off the lot; it'll have its best mileage that year, and every year after that, we see about a 1 to 2% rate of fuel degradation, meaning that the MPGs kind of dip and they taper off. So just on the surface alone, that truck's going to be eating up more gallons of truck and fuel.
Right.
And the add to that the rising cost of diesel prices. I think diesel price now is $5.50. So with fuel degradation and rising fuel costs, it just creates a perfect storm for operational costs to rise. A lot of our clients are having issues with that. So again, that's where we come in on my team to try to help them out with solutions from total cost of ownership standpoint.
Right. Now, when reviewing the TLDI data, one of the most eye opening numbers from the report is that organizations who are running an average of 100 2022 model year equipment, they could absorb more than $1.2 million in extra costs compared to those who are running 2028 model year equipment. Where are those costs really coming from?
Yeah, again, rising fuel prices aren't helping. Again, they're dealing with a lot of operational costs with fuel. But another thing that they don't think about is maintenance costs. And there's a lot of new EPA regulations in 2027 that are putting pressure on a lot of OEMs to try to increase technology. And that also comes with uncertainty with technology and a lot of questionable truck maintenance expenditures that they're not used to. You throw that on top of fuel, it just kind of creates a perfect storm for the cost to increase. And that's kind of why we push continuously to find the tipping point of that truck, whether it be the third, fourth, or fifth year right before that M&R spike increases, and get out ahead of that so that you're not being left in the dust with rising maintenance and fuel costs.
Right. Now, there are some organizations that may be focused on rising equipment costs, but when looking at the TLDI, it does shows that there is greater risk in waiting. So, why is delaying replacement actually becoming more expensive than upgrading?
Yeah, and I totally understand the organization's worries about the rising cost of equipment, but our data actually shows that the operational costs are rising faster than the increased cost of the equipment. I think the number we're comfortable with using is $4,500 a tariff. There's a lot of uncertainty with that right now. Even
Mm.
with that uncertainty, using a $4,500 tariff, we're still looking at about $11,000 in savings by replacing that used truck early before that tipping point and before the field aggregation and the increase in M&R really kicks in. And I just think the TLDI does a great job of portraying that.
Right. So, on that note, for the organizations who are listening today and they are trying to navigate tariffs, the fuel cost increase, and procurement uncertainty, all of that happening all at once, what are the most important steps that you think they should be taking right now to build a more smarter long-term strategy for their fleets?
I think the number one thing is to create a multi replacement year strategy. There's a lot of trucks in their fleet that are running different mileages that we see a lot. A lot of the analytics that we look at, there's a lot of really good analytics that we can show that have a specific tailored solution for each batch of trucks. Let's say you have 10, 15 trucks that are running 60,000 miles a year, and then you have another batch of trucks running 100. Well, those trucks running 100 are going to hit their tipping point faster than the ones at 60. So
Mm.
we recommend to get out of those first and then push out the other ones running lower to a second and third year. And every truck, every fleet's different. We kind of tailor the solutions to what best helps their bottom line, their overall TCO. And that's just it, as well as to transfer the thinking of increase of the future cost of the truck and kind of throw out that worry of the rising OEM prices when they really should be focused on total cost of ownership of the current trucks that they do have now. So
Right.
I would say that shift in mindset is would be beneficial for fleet owners.
Right. And on that note, Joey, want to say thank you so much for coming on the show today and really helping break down the latest TLDI findings. Obviously, throughout this conversation, it was really highlighted, and it's very important for organization with transportation fleets to have that long-term planning, multi-year planning, just making sure that you are aware of what's going on with the within the industry.
Absolutely, yeah, it's a pleasure to have be on, and thank you again for having me.
Today's conversation underscores how quickly operating costs can escalate when organizations delay replacement decisions, especially in today's high diesel price environment. The latest TLDI data shows that newer equipment and proactive strategies aren't just operational upgrades, they're financial protections. As changes continues, data-driven planning is becoming essential to long-term fleet success. If you found value in today's episode, please share, like, and leave a review. You can listen to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. You can also watch this episode on our social media platforms such as LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Until next time, let's continue to drive solutions together.